Hey guys, my name's Lindsay, and today we're going to take a few minutes to take a look at factor by grouping. Now, factoring by grouping, the question, you know what, I'll just write it here. A question like this would probably just say factor on the top. So if you were to open up a question that you needed to do, the instructions would probably just say factor. It wouldn't instruct you to factor by grouping. So what you would do first is you would take a look at this question, 12x cubed plus 2x squared, subtract 30x, subtract 5, and you'd say, first of all, what's the first type of factoring I always look for? I always look for a common factor. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say, first look at the numbers, 12, 2, 30, and 5. And I don't know about you, but I can't think of a number that goes evenly into all four of those numbers. I can for 12, 2, and 30. 2 would work, but as soon as you put 5 in there, now there isn't a number that would divide evenly into those, except for 1, which wouldn't help us very much. Now I'm going to look at the letters. We've got 3 x's there, x to the power of 3, x to the power of 2, x, or x to the power of 1. And this guy doesn't have an x at all. So again, they don't have letters in common either. So we are not going to be able to factor that by pulling out a common factor because there just isn't one. So what we're going to do next is we're going to consider factor by grouping. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to group these terms. We're going to make sure that they have the same amount of terms in each group. So my first group will be my first 2 terms, and my second group will be my second 2 terms. When I do that, I want to make sure that this 30x, there's a negative sign in front of that. That stays with the 30x. It's part of that term. So now I'm going to do my common factor thing again, except this time I'm only going to worry about the values in my group. So I'm starting here. The 12 and the 2. The greatest common factor between 12 and 2, well, 2 is the biggest number that will go evenly into both of those. X to the power of 3 and x to the power of 2. The greatest common factor between the two of those is x squared. So that's my greatest common factor for those two. Now let's finish factoring that. Let's figure out what should be in the brackets here. 2x squared times what would give me 12x cubed? Well, 2 times 6 would give me 12, and x to the power of 1 times x to the power of 2 would give me my x to the power of 3. Now 2x squared times what would give me 2x squared? Well, since those are the same, I'm actually just going to put a 1 in there. 2x squared times 1 would give me 2x squared. The first part is done. Let's do the same for the second part. But the way the factor by grouping works is we're going to think of a number that goes in here. We're going to find that common factor in a minute. But this guy that's in the bracket right here, this is only factorable if the second bracket that we create looks exactly like that first one. So this has to be a 6x to the power of 1 plus 1 in brackets for this to work. So I'm going to figure out what number goes in here to make this work. And if that doesn't work, if I can't think of a number, then this is just not factorable by grouping. But let's take a look and see if it is. So I have a 6x plus 1 in the bracket. I have to figure out what's going to go out here for us to come up with that. So negative 30 and a 6. What do I have to multiply 6x by to get negative 30x? Well, if I multiply negative 5 times positive 6, I would get negative 30, and then the x is there already, so that works. Let's try it with the second number. Negative 5 times 1 would be negative 5, so it works. If it didn't work, again, it just isn't factorable, but in this case it is. So now I'm going to take what I see in the brackets. It's written twice, although it's the same. I'm going to write it once in a bracket. And then I'm going to write what I have left over in a separate bracket. 2x squared subtract 5. And this, factored, looks like that. Now, something that's kind of fun about factoring is you can actually check your answer to see if that you're right or not. Math doesn't always give us the opportunity to do that, but it does here, so let's check it. So let's take, and I'll rewrite this for you. Let's take 6x plus 1, and that's multiply it by 2x squared, subtract 5. That's our factored version, and when we multiply that out, we should get that, and if we do, we know we're right. So we're going to FOIL this. We're going to multiply it out. 6x times 2x squared would be 12x to the power of 3 6x times negative 5 would be negative 30x. 1 times 2x squared would be 2x squared. And 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And if I look back up to my original question, although it's in a different order, 12x cubed, that's plus 2x squared, minus 30x, minus 5. I know I'm right because I got that original question. So it's kind of nice to, in math, have the opportunity to check and make sure that you're right. Let's take a minute, and if I were you, what I would do at this point is turn the video off or to pause and try that question on your own using first common factor, see if you can find a common factor for that, and if not, then try factor by grouping. So hopefully you did that, and you took a minute and tried that out on your own, because I've said this before, but I'll say it again, math is about doing math. And the only way that you can get good at math is by doing it. Watching me doing this is kind of boring, but watching me doing it a little bit and then doing some on your own is what's really going to make you good at this stuff. So let's take a look at this. We've got a value of 25, 5, 30, and 6. I can't think of a common factor that goes into all four of those numbers. Y to the power of 3, to the power of 2, to the power of 1. That guy doesn't even have a y. There's no common factor. So I'm going to group. I'm going to take the first two, and then I'm going to take the last two, and I'm going to find now the common factor just of my group. 25 and 5. Biggest number that goes evenly into those two numbers is a 5, and y to the power of 3 and y to the power of 2, the greatest common factor between those is 2. Now let's figure out what should be in this bracket. 5 times 5 would give me 25, and y to the power of 1 times y to the power of 2 is my y to the power of 3. And 5y squared, well, that would just be times 1 would give me 5y squared. And my suggestion in this last question is going to be the same suggestion I make here. Let's rewrite this bracket exactly the way we see it. 5y plus 1. Squeeze that in the end there for you. If I can't find a number that works for here, I just know that it's not factorable. So let's see if we can do it. I want a number that I can multiply by 5y to get 30. And I'm going to say if I do that with positive 6 times 5y, that's 30y. Now positive 6 times 1, 6. Awesome. It works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that bracket that I see twice and I'm going to write it just once. And then with my leftovers, I'm going to put that in a second bracket. 5y squared plus 6. And there you have your values factored by grouping. If you want to take a minute and complete a check for this one, just like we did over here, it probably couldn't hurt, and hopefully you feel a little bit more comfortable with factoring by grouping.